Hi Ivan, how's it going? Episode 4 already.
Yeah, that's us done four. Only 3 weeks to go, 21 days until the election. Closing up fast.
Yeah, it's another thing that's apparently closing up fast is Russian military in the channel. And I've always found this slightly strange, shall we say, that whenever Trident needs a little bit of a boost when they need to make it slightly more popular, the Russians always seem to appear. It's quite miraculous.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't actually noticed that, but you might well be right. I think the MOD or whatever are probably fairly good at media management. And to be fair, the Russians are probably always somewhere, so you can always find them if you need them. But of course, that leads on to the question, well, if we've got nukes and are so effective, why are the Russians in the channel? But there you go. That's another question.
Yeah, exactly. It shows, even that whilst they may or may not be highlighting it, it shows up the ineffectiveness of it because the Russians are there already. But then there's the other side of the ineffectiveness of it, in that in the world with these terror threats that are perhaps exaggerated, but there certainly are real ones, what use is a massive nuclear bomb system against that kind of threat?
Oh, absolutely. And if you look back at what's happened, nukes didn't stop Galtieri invading the Falklands, for example. So they're not as effective as somebody might think. And when I go and stay in other countries across Europe that don't have them, I don't lie awake at night worrying about the fact I'm not under a nuclear umbrella. People got to think about that every time they go on holiday to Spain or Italy, for example. No nukes to protect you while you're on holiday.
No, absolutely. And do you think it's part of the British state's desire to maintain the impression that it's part of the big boys club, that it's really one of the big nations that makes all the decisions?
That's all it is, because if you look at it from a rational perspective, if they were going to spend that much money on defence, there are much more effective ways to spend it, even within the MOD, and the MOD know that. And as far as America are concerned, the amount of nukes that we've got are fairly irrelevant to their defence strategy. They would, I believe, much rather that the UK, if it was going to invest money in the military, invested it in things that the Americans found more effective, be that boots on the ground or be that intelligence gathering or those kind of activities that they do find valuable. Because the reality of the UK's nukes is, of course, they aren't independent anyway. There's no scenario you can imagine where they would be used without an American decision as to whether to use them or not.
So you said with spending it on conventional forces at a UK level there, but let's just think about it in a Scottish context. The Scottish share of that 100 billion would be about 8 or 9 billion. What could we actually do with that money if we chose to invest it in other areas, if it wasn't going on this, what I think is actually a waste of money?
No, absolutely. I mean, it's spread over a number of years, obviously, but it's still a significant amount of money each year. And it brings us back to considering what we're talking about in terms of investment and the economy and austerity. And not all investment is the same. I mean, Trident, if you think about it, it's a major investment, but it's a fairly useless one. Not only is it useless from a defence point of view and from a moral point of view, a means of investing money in the economy, it's also pretty useless because it generates very, very few jobs. If you think about the number of jobs you could generate spending 8 or 9 billion in the Scottish economy on, for example, house building or road building or infrastructure in general or whatever, it's far, far in excess of the small number of jobs that allegedly the Trident programme currently supports. So that's a very important point to consider when we talk about the economics of Trident as well.
Strangely enough, that's one of the defences that they always give. You know, the people of Helensburgh will be out of work and that town will be devastated if they don't continue the Trident programme. But as you said, with 8 or 9 billion, there's so much more you could do.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And that's a whole 100 billion effectively, because those are the UK jobs for Trident, and there's about 500 jobs directly related to the Trident programme at Fastlane. The biggest part of the employment there, of course, is for the conventional base, or would continue to be a conventional base. So when you think about it, 100 billion for 500 jobs, that's a lot of money per job. There's much, much more effective ways to generate jobs and investment into the economy.
You'd probably have to employ 500 people just to figure out what to use the 100 billion on if you're not using it on Trident anyway.
Absolutely.
So to move it on to the political side of it, because the case has been given that when forming any sort of coalition, the Trident issue is a red line for the SNP. What effect do you think this will have on any negotiations or the outcome of any future coalition government?
Well, it's very interesting to see what's going on, and all the parties are positioning and sending signals for the negotiation stance after the general election result comes in, and you saw that the Lib Dems were doing that again this morning, roundabout talking on their manifesto versus the Tory manifesto, and kind of sending signals as to what they would and wouldn't be up for. As far as Trident's concerned, the SNP's laid down a pretty strong red line on that, which is that they will not support renewal of Trident in 2016. It doesn't mean that Trident goes away in 2016. It means that we're not committing to invest this $100 billion in the next generation of weapons. So the ones that are there will continue for the foreseeable future, which, barring another decision, will be quite a long time. So there's quite a lot of life left in them yet. But what it would mean is that the clock would be ticking on the current system, and we wouldn't be wasting money on new ones. Politically, the SNP's laid out that position. That'll be, as I say, that will be a red line. The SNP won't support that under any circumstances, and will work to persuade Labour MPs, certainly a very large number of whom are against Trident, that it's a bad idea as well. But of course, what it's also done is got it into the media agenda, and it's made a lot of people step up and think about it. They hadn't thought about it before, had assumed it was a good thing. Now they hear a credible case against it. And I think it will have an impact on public opinion north and south of the border, or particularly south of the border, because they're hearing about opposition to Trident as a credible position for the first time in a long time, really.
Thanks, Ivan.
Thank you very much, Michael. Talk to you tomorrow.